today I'm really excited because we're going to take a deep dive into Naples, Naples history, and really the people that, in my opinion, you can have your own opinion, have been there from pretty much the jump of what I think is the most important part of Naples' development in the last 35 years. Gentlemen, thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Yeah.
Good to be here.
Is
Good
this
to be here.
your first podcast?
Pardon me?
First podcast?
Yeah.
First formal one.
Okay.
Yeah.
With all this.
We pretended like we had some podcasts before, but we threw some mics in front of us and like,
stand with the mic in front of the mirror.
Yeah.
That's not a podcast. Sorry.
So where I wanted to start things is you guys started in Fort Lauderdale, came here about 35 years ago. The Naples as a whole has changed 20 times over since then, realistically. What have you guys seen in terms of the development? What are you happy with? What are you like, man, I wish it was like this I wish we had some of the things you guys had when you were teenagers, because I know you were at Naples High, knocking everybody out who would come by. But like, what really was it like back when Naples was a fraction of what it is today?
I mean,
it's a good old boy town.
It really was.
This is where the wealthy would come to hide, not to flaunt their wealth. And so you would have barons of industry down here, but you wouldn't know because they were driving around in old Buicks and wearing cutoff jeans and going fishing.
Well, they had to. They were from the Midwest, and to be caught in your hometown with a car that was foreign was just not acceptable.
Oh,
and and I can remember we had a couple guys that had Ferraris. That was like a rare thing. We thought it was cool, but nobody would really be caught in a fancy car back then. It was just now we have
a different mentality. Again, it was come here to just disappear for a month or so and enjoy the Florida weather and go to the beach and go out on your boat. But it never felt like it was a who's who, even though it probably was. Growing up here, we were a little bit clueless to that. But I remember, Stan, you were telling a story about at the Port World Club. You were asking Donahue how he made his money.
I was kidding. The Donahues have that property now, or it's now for sale for just under $300 million, $295 to be exact. I remember meeting them when I was younger, and I remember asking him. I said, "How did you make your money?" I was always curious that, and I remember his wife piped up and said, "You need to talk to me about that." And so she gave me a story about how she had actually introduced him to her father's friends and how he started, managing their money, and that's kind of how the business started. I thought it was kind of interesting, the dynamic between the two of them. It was super, they were so nice, such nice people. And I just remember that interaction. It was the only interaction I had with them, but it was something I'd never forget.
Yeah.
And I remember having a lot of interactions with people like that when I was younger. People who had, billionaires, and you don't even realize it, back then, because everybody kind of dressed casual. It's kind of a little bit like that still, and that's what kind of gives Naples its charm. But I just think back then you never really knew, it wasn't.
It's interesting because what you guys are saying is what I was told when I came down here. So I started at FGCU, and I remember getting down here. I didn't get down in Naples until probably a year living here, and Estero, which is where Florida Gulf Coast is.
Is that where it is? I was wondering.
It's.
I've never seen it. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I mean, but it's funny because I actually had a meeting with the founder of FGCU, and he would sit there and he said this was a community college. This was because there was nothing there was stuff in Fort Lauderdale, there was stuff in Tampa. There was people in all of those Sarasota, all these areas that they would have nowhere to realistically go.
College.
Yeah, other than Edison, which is now Florida Southwestern, which was basically just a very community college. And then FGCU came in. I remember, actually, believe it or not, they were having a fundraising to build the school, and our dad and Janie, his wife, were there as trustees, and to see like the overseeing of the building of the college. And now it's been around for a long time.
I think 25 years now.
25 years, yeah.
And the thing about it is, when I was talking to him, he was like, he didn't want it to get anywhere close to the size that it was. But what happened was they built a beautiful campus. They built a spectacular campus, and that's kind of what drew us to it. It's like you go on and you can see all the dormitories and all these other schools, but FGCU, they built it exactly how I think they attract people down to Naples and Southwest Florida in general. They made it the most attractive and like kind of this lifestyle-esque college. And I'm interested from your guys' perspective, when that kind of started, have you guys felt the speed of the town since when did you feel the speed of the town start to shift?
I'm going to say mid 90s.
Okay.
About the mid 90s is when Naples kind of hit the map. And it took a while for it to really kind of start taking off. But in the mid 90s, it kind of shifted from being a place where people would hide to a place where people would start to come down and when there's wealth in an area, the people who support that wealth come down and they aim for the wealth. And next thing you know, they're out there doing that, and it kind of builds on itself. So that happened about I would say the mid to late 90s. It really started to develop out. And then of course we had the early 2000s where we had this crazy run on real estate all over the country. And we had that, the party and then the crash and the hangover afterwards.
Yeah.
I remember Naples. I can remember Naples hit the national news back in 2004, 5, and 6. For property values bouncing.
Oh yeah, because they misvalued everything. So one of the things they said was Naples had the largest discrepancy between income and home value than anywhere in the country. Well, of course it did, because most of the people who buy the houses down here, the very expensive houses in the city limits, are not people that are working here. So they're saying, well, this guy works here as he works as a server at a table and he makes 50 grand that he actually tells people he makes, maybe less, a year, and the houses are, $4 million. That's a huge discrepancy.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, those people don't live in the city.
Yep.
So it's all in how you look at the statistics. You know? And so that was that made the national news because they could find that statistic and made Naples like this,
the epicenter of the financial crash, and it really wasn't that way.
Interesting.
But it didn't happen that way.
Okay.
We had some people hurt, some things that happened there at the time, but that was more because, but it wasn't as nearly as much as speculative purchasing as what I saw on the East Coast in Palm Beach and that area of Fort Lauderdale. I mean, there was incredible whole areas that were
whole neighborhoods just decimated.
Emptied out. People couldn't afford when they readjusted their rates, but that didn't happen as much over here, and that's kind of always been a safe haven for people who want to buy homes here.
Even dealing with the high net worth individuals who are down here, they didn't like it, but they could take the hit, or they would just sit on it. I'm just going to enjoy it then. Why not? And so, because they remember, even today, 65% plus or minus of the homes that are sold in Naples are cash. So with that high level of cash influx into the neighborhoods, market rates, as interest rates and all that stuff may affect these people, but not directly on their home purchase here.
Yeah, it's interesting to look at Naples from my perspective as somebody that is young entrepreneur. Like there's such an allure, especially from graduates of FGCU. They either shoot up to Tampa or they shoot across to Fort Lauderdale.
Right.
And I was always telling my friends, I said, the people that stick around here, people that stay a little while, I think from a business perspective, the opportunities open up because this is a bubble. We're in a bit of a bubble in Southwest Florida from the fact that, industries have there's been a slow development to digital marketing. There's a slower development to all these different things that are so widely accepted in places like Miami, things like that. Competitively, how did that change for you guys? Because you guys, people that don't know, deep relationships. I mean, your roots here are so deep. How have you guys kind of taken the landscape, and have you seen that? Like when you talk to people when you talk to agents in Miami, agents in Tampa, how does it differ from down here?
Well, I can tell you about agents even here that you'll see flash in the pants type agents, which are here. They try to make a big splash. Even major brokerages all over the country will come down here and we're going to own Naples in 3 to 5 years. And they have a kind of a little bit of a wake up call, realizing that this town is different. You can spend hundreds of millions of dollars on marketing and it can get you some market share, but you're not going to own the town like everyone wants to. Here, there's too much grassroots competition here. There's too many people that have been here for too long that have really good working relationships that are, the new guys will come in and they think, well, I'll outspend them, but it's not necessarily about spending, and they end up kind of getting put back on their heels a little bit and go, oh, this is different here.
Yeah.
You can talk about the East Coast versus this coast.
Well, yeah, I'm running an event that with a client right now where, the East Coast agents are just sell differently than we do here, where they'll price something super high and then say, but you get it for super low. And okay, so that's an interesting strategy. Over here, people they're not going to negotiate as much, and they're like, well, if it's too high, I'm not going to even go after it.
Good point of this is that the average list price to sale price in Naples is just about 96%.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So people are not negotiating.
They're negotiating, but they're not dropping their pants to sell anything. Remember, we're dealing with a lot of people who don't have to sell. They want to sell, but they don't have to.
That actually, real quick before we can go down that line, me and him we run through places like Vanderbilt, places like Port Royal. You're surprised in times like the summer, or it's a ghost town.
Yeah.
And these houses, Bonita Beach Road is a great example. Oh, yeah. These houses are just.
You're talking about Hickory, right? Down there. Hickory.
Yeah, 100%. Those, like all of these areas, have just a huge, just the houses are magnificent. They're beautiful, but they're underutilized in a lot of cases.
Oh, they're shuttered for most of the summer.
How does that change your guys's, that's where I can see these negotiations becoming super hard when you're talking about people's second, third, fourth house.
Correct.
That they own, and they're like, listen, I'll get the price that I want to get for it, or that's it.
It becomes you have to really know the marketplace. So we can speak with a level of intelligence about the marketplace and knowledge and experience, and we have to present it differently. We can't just say, well, you got to drop it here to sell it, because give me the backup. We also maybe have to present it as a spreadsheet. This is what your cost of carry is going to be for you to wait to get your price. If it's going to take a year to get your price and it costs you $100,000 to carry your house for a year with, let's say, HOAs, real estate taxes, or even more, is the juice worth the squeeze? And now we have acts of God that can come along and really change the marketplace for them. So those have always been out there, but we now have a little bit of PTSD from waterfront people and buyers the same way. They're like, well, I don't know, maybe I should go live on a golf course community, or maybe I should live inland a little bit. We've saw a big shift probably in the last 10 years from buying location to buying climate. So they want to buy the warmth. They want the winter warm weather, and they want a new house, and they don't care if it's 5 miles inland.
Inland.
Yeah. Whereas, it used to be waterfront ruled, and it still does for a lot of buyers. Waterfront rules, obviously that's the platinum real estate in town. But once you get off the water, doesn't matter whether you're, a half a mile from the beach or 5 miles from the beach. Everybody hops in their car and goes anyway. Very few people are going to ride their bike or take a golf cart to the beach. But when you start having that kind of level of dollars off the beach, then they go, well, I'll go a little bit further in so I can get a new house for the price that I want to pay.
And the services are following that too.
Absolutely.
The restaurants, the grocery stores, all that is now being built in areas where people don't have to necessarily come into the coastal areas. They can be out there and stay out there and live and play. And so that's become much more valuable in time, and real estate too. So that is giving people options in this town. And just recently in the last few months, we've seen a lot of options come open in the marketplace, which has been great for buyers because they're seeing options, which hasn't really since COVID has been nothing really available.
Yeah.
The inventory has been absolutely nothing there, and now all of a sudden we're seeing inventory numbers going up, which is giving people options, and it's helping people make come down here and take a look. I can be there, or here. So that's where we come into play, and we have to try to help them make those decisions, in a way that makes them comfortable and in a smart way, so they know kind of what they're getting into.
Help them navigate that. I mean, a perfect example of inland development is right over by FGCU, where you go down Corkscrew now, And
Oh yeah.
Bellaterra used to be way out there,
Yeah.
and now it's not. And they're building services further out on Corkscrew than right there at Ben Hill Griffin. So you're starting to see that kind of growth in that direction.
Out of Mockley too.
Immokalee Road and Naples and 41 are the only two places you can go east in Naples, because if somebody's not familiar with the Naples area, everything from Immokalee Road to basically 41 east of Collier Boulevard is all single family homes.
Mm.
And it goes out there all the way to DeSoto, which is like 29. So, and those who don't know where 29 is, that is like another 15, 20 miles, maybe more, east of I-75.
It's actually something I really wanted to drill in on. I've worked with a lot of different agents in this area.
Mm-hmm.
The market shift, I would say that this is the last to get into a bad market and the first to get out. Like, again, back to that bubble conversation. Like, we are definitely in a little bit of a bubble. But what I saw is real estate agents that are targeting first-time home buyers, real estate agents that are working with a select group that they normally drill in with, especially let's say it is first-time home buyers in Naples.
Yeah.
The person I'm thinking of didn't sell a house for 5 months, and she was a top 400 producer in Naples.
Yeah.
Top 400 for all of the, so it's like these cycles here. You guys have seen almost all the cycles. How do you stay afloat, I guess, in this market?
Well, we're pretty good at staying in our lane, and working the people that, trust us and know us, and we get a lot of great referrals. And those people, get more referrals and more referrals. We've been very fortunate with that. And that's because, when you help people, whether they're finding a home or selling a home, you build that relationship, and those folks are happy with the job we do, because we really put our heart into it. We really do. But that's how we stayed afloat. I think it is a cyclical business. Sometimes COVID was a crazy time when everybody was making money, but now you have to really go back into the technical skills of what we do, is helping people try to make those decisions to be able to help get them to the next step, whether it's a buyer or a seller, to make that move they want to make. I mean, so a lot of people trust us, one of their biggest assets they have. So we feel comfortable with that. We've been doing it a long time. So that's something that has been going on for a long time with us. Now, I think a lot of people who, they do 1 or 2 deals a year, it's hard to keep that knife sharp. I mean, we do what, the 50, 60, sometimes even
somewhere in there.
Yeah, deals a year. So, we keep that knife sharp on all the different things that we do, how we get through the process, all the processes to get to where we need to do to get to the closing. And then after closing, we do a lot of services after that too.
If you're going 5 months without a sale, you might want to rethink your business plan.
Yeah.
Well, that was the conversation, because from that, like, what I noticed is there was a gold rush during 2020. Like that's when I got a really good insight on like what this market really is. It was like
what it's capable of doing.
What it's capable. I mean, it's bonkers. It is out of this world. What this specific area demands, and the inflow, and I mean, we can get into the politics and why that makes this place so attractive, and all these different factors that go into keeping this. Now, on the flip side, you have the younger generation, people like myself. They're like, Naples is old, and they want to keep it. They want to keep it small. I mean,
we try to make people think that, so that way they stop coming, but it doesn't happen.
But it's not true either.
No, it's not true.
There's a lot of people that are coming here and looking at this as the land of opportunity.
Yeah,
100%.
Yeah, if you think this place is old, just go to Seed the Table on a Wednesday night, and you realize that it's one of the crazy places where you can grab a grapefruit and grab a granny at the same time.
Can we talk about that real quick?
Sure.
Seed the Table.
Yeah.
What a model! What a absolute model! What have you guys seen? Like that was a huge project, Alfie.
Yeah, Alfie Oaks. Yeah,
he's 4 years, maybe more, to actually put that place together. It used to be an old Albertsons, actually, and he bought the building, and it sat vacant for quite a while, and then he bought the building, and people were wondering if it was ever going to open, if he was ever going to make it work. And then he's a perfect example of a business plan that ended up with a perfect storm.
Right.
Because here is this guy that is, hey, you can live your life in my store and do what you need to do, and not worry about all the rest of this, in a time when people were really looking for that.
And it was essential business, so you could stay open.
Right.
I mean, it was like, wow, like what a great
So
situation for him, and I'm happy for him too.
It became a huge social place, and I think that was strict. I think COVID drove that. I don't think he ever thought that it was going to be what it is now, because it might have been designed slightly differently. But he saw the opportunities and took full advantage of it, and that's a perfect example of being able to. Here's a guy who's a farmer, has lots of land out east of town, and he has an Oaks Market down off of Davis Boulevard, and then he decided to expand. I think the whole place started, if I'm not mistaken, with like a bunch of fruit stands on the corner of Airport Road and Golden Gate Parkway, right out there by what now is a assisted living facility, and it was just a big fruit stand out there, and now it's a going concern.
But yeah, and that hit national news too.
It did.
I mean, that was another thing that got Naples again on the map, and people who wanted to escape some of the different states, because of lockdowns, they decided, well, I'm going to see the table, I mean, which is awesome. I mean, it was great, and of course, and of course, a lot of it, I thought it was interesting because people talk about the age of our area, and I go, well, that's the group of people that really didn't care much about COVID.
Yeah.
I mean, they were like, you know what? It's fine. I just have a lot of respect for, people as I get older, the older people than me, because
we are now the crotchety old guys.
Yeah. Maybe that's why it's getting younger now. So yeah, I mean,
about that though, the traffic of, because this, like, for instance, we live up in Estero.
Yeah.
Getting to and from work right now, which is we're down on about Pine. We're on Pine Ridge.
If you throw a dart at Naples, you're right in the middle of it.
Basically,
yeah.
It's an hour. Normally, if I drive here at 5:30 in the morning, it's a 25-minute drive, 30-minute drive. Right now, it's an hour plus.
True.
We do not have my opinion. Do we have the infrastructure to support this growth? And how do you guys see it going?
We almost should show that interview of Dad back in 1980.
Oh my gosh, yeah. So
I've got a video of him when he was interviewed when he was by a local news station.
We'll send it to you. It's actually kind of cool. He was actually in charge of the committee to growth and design and growth for Naples back in 1980.
That was in 1980 when that was
80.
80.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the same time that he was working for the Collier family and helped develop the Pavilion Shopping Center.
Wow.
Yeah, and so which has now since been redone, and yeah, that was kind of cool. What can we do? Well, I think one of the biggest challenges that and Naples kind of created it on themselves was all these planned communities that are gated. So now there are no like secret cut throughs once you get north of downtown. So now everybody has to go to 41 or Goodlet or Airport or Livingston. And if you're going north of Naples, there's only two, including I-75. And now Logan goes to Bonita Beach Road, but you have I-75, you have Livingston Road, which turns into Imperial and Three Oaks for those of you who are north of here, and then 41, which goes all the way to Tampa. So now they all become kind of parking lots. And I don't know of any kind of, there's no simple answer. You can't add more lanes anymore. You can, but it doesn't, it's going to be gridlock again.
Yeah.
So other than letting the places that are east of here cut through, I know there are plans to cut Goodlet, not Goodlet, that's already been done. Back when I was a kid, Goodlet used to
Logan?
dead end. No, yeah, take Logan and go further north, and also take 951 and go all the way up towards the airport with that. And if they do that, that's going to help a lot with our relieving the traffic where they have to come east to go north to go back west. West to go north to come back east again.
It's insane.
Yeah.
I mean, and then some people, coming, from Estero, Fort Myers area, if you're going south, it takes time.
Yep.
And I noticed, like, even this morning I was driving in from Estero and just coming in a little bit hour later, seem to make a big difference in the traffic. So there's ways you can time it a little bit, because I know we've had so many people moving down here.
Yeah.
And that's kind of, and again, the gated communities, a lot of people don't even worry about traffic because they just stay there. But like a lot of commuters, or like when we're going around showing property, or yourself getting to work, it can be a challenge sometimes. You almost have to try to figure out your timing on that.
Yeah, and then of course I used so I live up in North Naples. And Naples from where I live all the way down to Fifth Avenue is about, I want to say it's 13 miles, 13 or 14 miles, and I would commute by bicycle from my house to the office, and back. And when it became season and traffic packed up, the difference between me riding my bike and taking the car was about 5 to 10 minutes. That was it.
Wow.
Now, I wasn't poking along. I mean, but it wasn't that much difference in the commute time.
Yeah.
And so, and I could, get some exercise in the process. So,
but the thing that I think that we could talk about all the little micro problems that I think, in terms of scale, that this city has felt. But one of the things that I can say confidently as somebody that's younger, going to Miami, going to Tampa, going to Fort Lauderdale, going to there's so much chaos in terms of building a life in a city like that. There's a lot of, think about the chaos that came with COVID and all these. This place is, again, a bubble. It's almost deflectant of all these ups and downs. There's still problems and there's still issues, but I think why this is so attractive to anybody, not just high net worth anymore, is because of this feeling of safety, security. Where does that come from your guys' perspective? Is that the leadership of the city? What have you seen, especially as the leaders have shuffled throughout the years?
Naples is a place that is unique because we have a lot of people that come into Naples from all over the place. However, it was primarily a Midwestern developed town, where basically you had I-75 coming down from Ohio, you had I-95 coming down from New York, and they developed the different coasts of Florida from their respective locations.
Wow.
So Naples was primarily Midwestern folks, and it was a little bit different way, a little bit more conservative mindset here. So those folks respected law enforcement. They respected that you look at, if you want to go straight across the state to Fort Lauderdale and south into Miami and that area, that was very heavily populated by foreign nationals, or people that came from South America, Central America, Cuba, and developed it. So there's a lot of different, and that's what makes Miami cool, and also really a fun place to go. But it also makes it a little bit more volatile. You have all these different cultures descending upon this town and trying to figure out how to work together. And they don't always mesh.
Yep.
So this is how I did it in Venezuela. Well, this is not Venezuela.
Exactly. Legitimately.
It's even funny. You go back even further on the history of the West Coast and the East Coast. You go back to, look who settled in Fort Myers. It was Edison, Firestone, and Ford. These guys just want to come down here and fish.
Right.
They didn't care about, they want to get away from their businesses, and they're all Midwesterners, and they came down and they just wanted to hang out here. And of course, on the East Coast, what happened? They built the Breakers Hotel. Right. And the Breakers brought in all the high society New Yorkers. And that's where it all started. And they started going further south to Miami and everything else. So if you look at the cultural differences between the West Coast and East Coast, it's a big difference. If you go back, over 150 years ago.
Yeah, go to the Midwest and go to the Northeast, and you'll see a cultural difference. And it's magnified down here because we're only 100 miles apart.
It's so I didn't even know that.
Yeah, think about the mentality of a...
Walk back to that story.
Yeah.
So Edison,
Firestone, and
Ford all used to come together down here and fish.
Edison would bring them down.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he had a place here. That's why Edison is so big in Fort Myers. You should go visit sometime if you haven't been there. They have a museum that's his old home right there on the river. It's pretty fascinating.
He would tinker with light bulbs and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
He'd do inventions.
He would bring the heads of different corporations down here and show them how he could help make it better. So this was like the first place where a lot of the barons of industry were introduced to Florida.
And this is where they escaped to.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's how this all kind of.
Whereas you had on the other side of the coast, you had the flagglers, and you had all the kind of the wealthy barons that came down here and said, "Oh, look at this place, Palm Beach. We're going to make this amazing. We're going to build this incredible hotel, the Breakers, and we're going to bring over wealthy, affluent friends from up in the Northeast."
And most of those were political leaders and people like that. So, you had like the Kennedys were there, I think.
Yeah, Kennedys were there. You got a lot of big major New York wealth. That's why you see a lot of these hedge funds and other management companies coming and bringing their businesses down to the Palm Beaches, because that's kind of where it all started.
And that's where the CEO is, and he doesn't want to have to commute too far.
Yeah.
And then you have the Midwest, and it's a similar kind of thing. Baron Collier was actually made his money by selling advertisement on streetcars in Chicago. I think that's where he started. And then he bought the land, which is now Collier County, for practically nothing because everyone thought it was just swamp, And Naples was this little podunk town that had access by train and by boat, and that's it. The train would go to the depot, which is still in downtown Naples, but no tracks anymore. It used to go right up Goodlet Road.
Whoa.
And then the Naples Pier was where they would get all their supplies by boat. So the boat would leave from Fort Myers or take the train on south down here, and it would dead end right here in Naples. And this was just a little fishing town, and this is exactly what he liked. But Baron Collier was convinced, because of all the swampland, that there was oil here. And believe it or not, there are operating oil wells in Collier County. Up at one time, there was as many as 36 of them. I don't know how many are still operating or not, but you used to go out of Immokalee, and you'd see these, the oil wells.
They still own the mineral rights, the Collier family.
Yeah, that's another thing most people don't know.
Yeah.
If you pay $295 million for that piece of property down at the end of the road there, that's great. But if you strike oil on it, then it belongs to the Colliers.
Whoa. I did not know that.
Yeah, most people don't. So if you strike gold on that, which most people think it must be.
But we have some of the lowest property taxes in the state of Florida.
Right.
Because it doubles if you go to the East Coast. I know so property taxes are give or take about 1% in Collier County. You go to the East Coast, it's 2% and sometimes even higher. So when you're talking about a multi-million-dollar home, that can add up to a lot of dollars. And not that a lot of those people, that's a big difference for them, but it does for some buyers. Definitely, it makes a difference. But yeah, and that's really because most of the high-end homes in South Naples is paying for everybody's tax base.
Well, and before this, we had a lot of really expensive real estate, but we didn't have a lot of population at the time.
Okay.
So our tax basis was covering and then some everybody else. So basically, and it's still kind of that way. We have how many high schools? Like 5 now. But according to the population, and you look at the average price of a house now, which is $600,000. Across all of Naples, no matter what house, condo, whatever. You'll see that the basis is there to be able to build a new high school and to do the things that the city needs to do and create enough police force and et cetera, because we have a lot of high-end real estate down here, which I believe is what helps keep Naples.
And that was going to be my kind of wrap-up question specifically for you guys is, where is Naples going? From your guys' professional opinion.
It's all downhill from here. We've seen it. This is it. We're done. Actually,
it's turning into Miami.
No, but
not that that's bad.
It's turning into Miami. All the Miami people are like, oh.
the last storm that came through here, you heard the younger crowd go, well, this is how it turns into Fort Lauderdale. This is how it turns into Miami, because there's all this decimation and then they rebuild, and they're going to rebuild bigger, stronger, whatever. At least I can speak on Fort Myers Beach specifically.
Yeah,
that is not happening. They are going to put up as much red tape, as much almost like as many barriers to entry for these bigger corporations to build more Margaritavilles, to build these massive, massive structures. How do you guys see it going?
Well, I think that's a good news, bad news situation.
Okay.
Fort Myers Beach was probably due for some redevelopment. Ian kind of helped us with that by clearing out a lot of the homes that weren't capable of standing a storm like that. And That's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, those people, I feel bad for them. This is not a judgment on that at all. Redevelopment is not, I think long term it will help Fort Myers Beach. The red tape that they put in place was just going to help keep it in check, so it doesn't turn into a urban insanity. It's a fine line between keeping that small town feel and keeping up with the direction of development and growth that we have here.
Yeah.
And everybody wanted to pull up the bridge after they came across it when they moved into Naples years ago. No more development. We're just going to stop it. But there's too many industries down here that rely on that. And so that becomes the push and pull, so to speak, with regards to the county and the red tape and regulations, and then what people really want to do when they're down here. And so I don't think Margaritaville is bad. I think it's going to bring a lot of commerce to Fort Myers Beach that they wouldn't have had before. And the small town, it's not going to hurt the people that are, the old timers that want to stay there. I mean, you can't, if you're a full-time resident and you're homesteaded, the property values going up don't hurt you like they do if you're not homesteaded.
Yep.
And that's a whole nother thing we can get into some other time. But I think personally that I'm not anti-development. I'm not necessarily feel like all the development is good. We saw how fast Naples bounced back from Ian, on a whole. You drive down Gosher Boulevard now, and there's only a little bit here and there compared to Fort Myers Beach, which still has a long way to go.
Yep.
And so
that's 10 years.
10 years.
10 years until Fort Myers Beach is close to, if not all the way back.
Right. And so, those older homes that got destroyed during the storm, I feel horrible for those people, but when they build back, they'll build back better. And so, and there's a lot of speculators that have popped into there over the last year and a half since Ian that are buying up property like hand over fist to do just that. And, for those folks that want to stay, they don't have to sell. It might take them a while to rebuild, and you'll see them living in a temporary structure.
Yeah.
But the reality of it is that we live in a coastal community. We will have storms like that.
Yep.
And it's a matter of time. We've been blessed that we haven't had a major flooding storm since 1960. So that's what, 70 some odd years. Or 60 some odd years. I don't know.
Yeah.
I have to do the math. 64 years.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so that was Hurricane Donna. So every other storm we've had has been mostly wind or other stuff, but not a major storm surge. We got to the point sometimes where they'd be, the weather people were like, storm surge. Like, if I hear a storm surge one more time.
Yeah, nobody believed it.
Yeah, it was they cried wolf so many times, and now all of a sudden the wolf was there, and it did create issues, and a lot of people lost a lot of property. But they built back, and
I think Naples is recovering quickly, and I think Naples is recovering in the right way.
Yeah.
I think some of the homes, people are getting out of, they're selling them for great money. It couldn't have happened at a better time for a lot of homeowners. They're like, I want to move and sell my property. We did that with someone who the house got really destroyed. They got a great number for their property just on land value alone because it's worth a lot more than the house.
Yeah.
Right. So they, that was really great for them, and it was able to make the next move in their life. So if Ian had to happen in any time, after COVID was a great time for a lot of the people who own down here. And now the people are coming in and they're buying these home sites like in Park Shore and other areas, and they're rebuilding these beautiful new homes, which is spectacular. And those spec homes are coming up for sale here every so often. So I think that looks great. I think it's going to just make everything better. Also, all the building codes are changing, so the homes are going to be higher. Which is fine, and they're working with that. So if we ever have another flood event, those homes would be in great shape. Even the homes that were built over the last few years, before the hurricane, were in great shape because they built it higher. So a lot of people didn't get, except for maybe the garages that were on sea level, their homes were fine.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's going to help everybody, in the future, in the long term, and for Naples.
As you notice, we tend to be pretty optimistic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the town. I love Naples. I mean, because I have friends all over the state. I lived on the East Coast too, for a little while. I lived in Palm Beach. I've lived in Tampa, and all I have friends. So being in Naples is basically 2 hours from both those places.
It is.
And and I can go to Miami or I can go to Lauderdale and visit friends. I mean, like I was this last weekend.
Yep.
So I think people don't realize what a great location Naples is based on the other major metropolitan areas. I mean, if I want to go to a Tampa Bay Bucks game, 2.5 hours from the stadium there,
or 45
Raymond
minutes
James
by plane if you want to fly it.
Yeah, you want to fly. Yeah, well, it's almost you could do that. Or you're 2 hours from from the Miami Dolphin Stadium. You could go anywhere from this location and then kind of be comfortable in your hometown. I mean,
You mentioned about the young people all going to the major metropolitan areas because they feel like there's more opportunity there.
I have no idea.
Yeah. That's the whole point.
No idea.
I mean, if you want to be successful in this town, all you have to do is return your phone call and show up on time.
Mm-hmm.
Shocker.
People hear that and they're like, no, it can't be that simple.
It is that simple. It is that simple. Follow up, follow through with what you promise, and guess what? You'll be successful in this town because there are a lot of people who move here, and if they're younger and they can. It's easy to get what I call the Neapolitan disease, where all of a sudden you're hanging out with all these people who are down here on vacation and playing.
Yep.
And you want to do the same. Well, no, we got to work. We're going to do our job, get our things done, and then we can go play. And the beauty of being in the real estate business Stan and I are in is that we sometimes we'll play on a Wednesday or a Thursday, and because we're working on the weekends.
You just said that. Nobody gets that. I was talking to somebody in San Diego, and I was like, yeah, my Wednesdays can be whatever I want my Wednesdays to be because this town really doesn't have that like off switch during the weekends. It probably turns up when Saturday and Sunday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Turns up on Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Sometimes a lot of people prefer to go out on a Thursday night because it isn't so busy and they can actually get a reservation at maybe we're just blowing our whole cover here, but they get a reservation at a restaurant.
But I mean, I do a lot of business in the evening with clients and when we socialize, things like that. And it's not during the weekends.
No.
The weekends are really not when everybody wants to kind of go do things. And, the whole,
so sometimes it's hard to do the business during the day because they're out playing golf or on
right. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
We find, we can get them away from the golf course and they can go look at property. But, again, I think there's a lot of opportunity down here for young people. Again, it just takes, like you said, following up and doing your job. I think one of the biggest things we need down here are more service and craftsmen, like technical people, mechanics, boat mechanics, car mechanics. What I'm going through at boat mechanics. We just went through that experience on our own boat. I mean, these good people that come down here and can ready to grind it out because people will pay top dollar here for the rights for the services. They want that engine fixed. They want that thing done. They want that air conditioning taken care of. They want they'll pay top dollar for it. They know they can trust you.
Right. And that's the big one, Stan. And you hit that right on the button. It's trust. There's a lot of people that'll charge top dollar but do subpar work. And so for the guy that will do the right work, and he can command his income that way because, we're on both sides of this when we do real estate transactions, trying to find someone that can get something done.
Yeah.
And I end up a lot of times just doing it myself.
That's true.
Pull out my toolbox and let's fix this sink faucet. It takes 5 minutes.
Exactly. There's a lot of opportunity. I like people talk about Vegas. People talk like the opportunity is here. You just have to open your eyes and you got to do the unconventional. Like you can't mass market this to the top here. Like you said it at the top of the at the start of the podcast. Mass marketing here doesn't work. It's a reputation and relationship market,
and that ramps up very fast if you're good. It ramps up very fast. And I mean, like within 1 year, you can go from knowing maybe one or two people and going out and begging for work to having to turn it away. If you're good, you show up on time. And when I say good, I mean, you know what you're stay within your lane in the business you're doing.
Yep.
Show up on time, return your phone calls, and follow through. People will find you. And that's what they're looking for. I get more of our people that we have that are just like, how come I can't get an AC guy or not necessarily an AC guy, but why can't I get somebody to show up to do X, Y, Z? I don't know. Have you called these 4 people? Yeah. Okay. And sometimes it's hard. And it's even hard for us because we'll recommend people, and then they get almost too busy or too arrogant, and I was like, hey man, I can't do anything until next like March. I was like, okay.
You're like, all right.
Even like an electrician, you know.
Yeah.
This is a tough time to try to get the services. That's why I think that we have more people like that to help out, down here to get those would be fantastic. I mean, like I said, we had our own issues with our own boat. Took 5 months to get it fixed.
Yeah, 5 months.
And I have another guy who's got it's probably a $2 million boat with, quads on the back of it, and he just can't get it fixed right.
Mm-hmm.
And it's been, he's only had it out 4 times, and 3 times it broke down. So he's super frustrated, and he could just find someone to fix it, to get the job and do your job, and I think that's important, in any business, but, and also it takes quite a bit of focus to be able to get that done, and organization.
Yep.
And, those people that come down here and they have that kind of organization, they want to do those jobs. It's not always the most glamorous, but it's also a need,
Well, I was going to say, if you're in your 20s and you want to go from 0 to 100 as fast as possible, these are, and especially coming from you guys, this is the golden nugget. This is the stuff
it can be. As long as they, a lot of times people are going to roll down here thinking that they've got the easy street, and it's not an easy street.
No.
There's a lot of competition here in our business and other businesses and stuff like that, and there's a lot of people that are really good BS artists. So it's being able to weed through that. Yes, there's absolutely opportunity here, and to do the basics will help you really move forward in that opportunity. However, you do have to still be competitive, and there is that. And like in our business, in the real estate business, I mean, you can't, as I joke around with people, you can't swing a dead cat in this town without hitting a realtor. Not that I'm swinging dead cats around.
that would be bluntly incorrect.
Don't be telling me.
Yeah, we're gonna edit that.
Can't swing a dead beep. What is that, a baby? You think, baby? No, I didn't say that. No, but yeah. So, but there's realtors. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
But if you look at how many of them actually produce, that's a very small number.
It is.
I'm surprised actually, because there's some very good agents that do a lot of great marketing, and I'm like incredible, like especially on social media. I mean, they're doing some cool stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's why we're
Yeah, well, that's why we're
But I mean, like, because I'm like, wow, do we need to get in this business? I don't know. Yeah. So I mean, they do incredible stuff, but then I look at their numbers and I'm like, whoa. They're not doing a whole lot. Doesn't mean that they're not doing the right thing. Just means that maybe they just haven't been
the fact that they're not doing the right thing
in the business. And it takes
it's a combination of a lot of things. I mean, basically, I think when it comes to taking care of our clients, it's not just one thing. It's a whole combination of a lot of things that we have to do in order to do that. Whether it is the social media marketing, whether it's podcasting, whether it's direct mail. I mean, old school stuff still works.
It does.
We're in a community now where you look at what they say, well, it's an older population. Well, they're a little bit more conservative.
Yeah.
They're not going to jump on the next bandwagon. Just like they're not going to jump to the next real estate office just because they're in town.
And they're new and they're flashy and they're all this.
Fancy. That's great. There's a place for that.
But I think the core of, and why we're so bullish on this market from a social media marketing perspective, is because what we're doing right now, this sit down, is as real as it comes. I can't sit down every real estate agent, and this is why I think this is the microcosm of what this market is. We're having a conversation.
Right.
We could go for 3 hours, and I could stay on this stuff, and we could go through each individual. You guys are going to have more information, and if you're thinking about making a purchasing decision like buying a house, you want the person with the most information, which means they've seen the most amount of cycles, they've met the right amount of people, they've been in the cycle enough. But this demonstrates that in a way that you guys are putting in one input, which is sitting down on a 45-minute podcast, and this can now have the legs to go anywhere, and it can be in front of anybody. And it again. What you can't fake is the demonstration of expertise that you guys both have. So I appreciate you both.
Yeah, thanks.
This is going to happen many, 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 many more times. Thank you guys so much, and we'll catch you guys on the
Appreciate you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.